Good morning. So I'm filming this today because hopefully you've all heard by now that due to the COVID-19, the coronavirus outbreak, we cannot have worship together in the church. So we're going to try and explore some online options and hopefully the technology will all work. Now, this is not live streaming at 9 a.m. today, and the reason for that is that at 9 a.m. today I'll be outside the church to make sure that no one missed out on the message and is waiting for us all. But hopefully from next Sunday, we will start live streaming some full style of worship service. But I wanted to give you some short reflection today as an opportunity for us as we enter into a time that is a bit of a difference and a challenge. And so we're just going to look through our gospel reading for today, and I'll offer some questions and thoughts and reflections for you. So, with the magic of technology, here is our reading for the day. And we might zoom in a little bit as well. So we're going to read from the NRSV, the New Revised Standard Version, through the Oramus website. But you can follow along in whatever version you like at home. So our gospel reading this morning comes from the book of John, chapter 9, verses 1 to 41. As he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva, and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then he went and washed and came back able to see. The neighbours and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some were saying, "Is it he?" Others were saying, "No, but it is someone like him." He kept saying, "I am the man," but they kept asking him, "Then how were your eyes opened?" He answered, "The man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and said to me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' Then I went and washed and received my sight." They said to him, "Where is he?" And he responded, "I do not know." They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also began to ask him how he had received his sight. He said to them, "He put mud on my eyes, then I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a man who is a sinner perform such signs?" And they were divided. So they said again to the blind man, "What do you say about him? It was your eyes he opened." He said, "He is a prophet." The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they called the parents of the man who had received his sight and asked them, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but we do not know how it is that now he sees, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that anyone who confessed Jesus to be the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." So for the second time they called the man who had been blind, and they said to him, "Give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered, "I do not know whether he is a sinner. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." They said to him, "What did he do to you?" How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I have told you already, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" Then they reviled him, saying, "You are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he comes from." The man answered, "Here is an astonishing thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but he does listen to one who worships him and obeys his will. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." They answered him, "You were born entirely in sins, and are you trying to teach us?" And they drove him out. Jesus heard that they had driven him out, and when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered, "And who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." He said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would not have sin. But now that you say we see, your sin remains." And in this is the word of the Lord. Over the last few weeks, we've been reflecting on the fact that in John's Gospel, light and dark are rarely just light and dark, and day and night are rarely just day and night. We've heard the story of Nicodemus, an insider to the establishment, coming to Jesus in the dark because he couldn't get his head around it. Although we also heard about Nicodemus's potential salvation and rediscovery of the light at the end of the story. Then last week we heard about the woman of Samaria, an outsider in every way, who does get it, who comes to Jesus at the brightest point because she is the one who walks in the light and becomes the first evangelist proclaiming good news to others in John's Gospel. Now we encounter another outsider, a man born blind, a man who is a beggar, a man who those who are religious wonder if is a sinner and has brought misfortune on himself. And again, he is the one who sees the light, who comes to Jesus in the brightest of day. I wonder what it says to us that Jesus keeps coming to these outsiders, those who are not part of the religious establishment, and that they are the ones who seem to get the gospel that God has come near. I wonder if this week maybe this gospel means more to us now that we have been put out of our religious establishment. What does it mean for us to have a God who comes to us when we are not able to be in the crowd? What does it mean for us here in this opening paragraph for a man who was born blind and excluded to be there so that God's works might be revealed in him? As I read this too for the first time this week, it struck me when Jesus shared, "We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work." Perhaps lockdown is coming when no one can work. Perhaps times of isolation when we cannot do how we have done things before, and yet the light of the world comes. The other bit that struck me just now as I read it was that the man, having been put out of the synagogue, worships Jesus. Jesus is present to us in our homes, on the street, and outside of our church. Perhaps sometimes, as people who have gathered together on a Sunday morning, this has been a hard thing for us to see. During this extraordinary time of needing to do church differently than ever before, may this be an opportunity where Christ encounters us in new and unexpected ways, revealing himself on the path, in the darkness, as the light who has come to us. Amen. So, I'm just going to close that. That's all for this week. As I said, hopefully next week we'll have some more organised resources up for you. Keep checking back on our website, crookwelluniting.org, or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/crookwelluniting, for up-to-date resources. And if you need to get in touch because you're feeling overwhelmed, please do. But I pray this Sunday that you will know the Christ who encounters us outside of the church. Amen. I'll see you next time.